Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be handling debt. We're going to be defining what is debt, what is good debt and what is bad debt. And eventually we're going to learn how to leverage good debt so that it can be able to work for us. So debt is the process by which for one reason or the other, you come into either a financial institution or a mobile lending app to be able to either fulfill a need or reach a goal. The difference between good debt and bad debt is good debt increases money in your account. It increases the revenues in which you get depending on the type of investment you make. Some may be year by year, others 6 months, others in 25 years. So it depends. And bad debt is whereby your money is living more than you are able to generate more. So this could be things like consumer loans. This could be our normal digital M-Shwari loans and KCB M-Pesa loans. But we have to address debt and say that taking the debt is not the issue. The issue is how you're going to use the debt. So for example, if you find yourself in a constant state of being very debt, either hungry or debt constrained, it means that those debts are not working in your favor. But if you're in a place where your debt is increasing money for you, then it's a good investment. So good debts can comprise of many things. It can comprise of maybe you wanting to construct rental properties to be able to gain clients, and that might give you money maybe once you finish constructing. That will give you money maybe in 3 to 5 years, depending on how fast you're able to finish and what type of building you're doing. Debt can be maybe you've saved and you want to buy a car, but this car, instead of it being only for personal use, it also becomes a way for you to do business. It could be maybe you bought a house, but you've decided instead of either me staying in the house, I rent it out, meaning money will be coming in, or I'll decide the money that I would have used to rent somewhere else, I will invest it in something else. So this is going to be literally like a long-term saving goal or a long-term saving plan. And you can also take little debt, though I don't really recommend it. You can take debt to buy stocks, T-bonds and T-bills. You can start with T-bonds, which are usually 3 to 6 months, and then see where that goes. My rule of thumb is for T-bonds and T-bills, of course, T-bills usually take more than a year, sometimes 7 years, sometimes 18 years, depending on the structure of the bond, and it gives you a certain percentage of dividend, either half yearly or yearly. But the best way to start with things like T-bills and T-bonds is first to start with, if you are not a person who dives into high risk investments, it's good to start small with what you have and see how you're able to grow from there, so that it can give you a small overview of how T-bonds and most government bonds work. Secondly, a good debt could be, for example, you want to learn a technical skill, but it charges a bit of money, and you know that at the current job you're in, if you are able to learn and apply in 3 to 6 months, you're able to recoup that money by way of either you build websites for people, or even at work, you're able to not only showcase your skills, and also those skills will help you to find work which makes you earn a bit more. How do we go about leveraging debt? So the first one is ensure returns outweigh the cost of borrowing. So for example, if you're going to take those big facilities like mortgages, it is always good to check out what's the increment increment amount of this particular piece of property of this house, include also maintenance, include also how long you're going to stay there if you plan on living there, and if you plan on renting, how is the rent there every 3 years? Does it grow by 5,000? Does it grow by 10,000? What are the developments around the area? How will it be able to meet your goal such that you're not carrying a mammoth facility which you're unable to clear up? Then the next one would be also, for example, that's the same concept still works for vehicles. It works for any form of debt you want to take, including even buying bonds and bills. You can take, loans for that, especially for the long-term period. But you also need to check if even the interest per year and what you're borrowing is going to be sufficient enough for you to be able to move you to the next. Then again, if you're in business, if you run a micro business or an SME business, then for me, the rule of thumb and what I've seen in my line of work is always to take kind of short-term loans, 6 to 12 months maximum for a business loan, so that you're able to learn the trajectory of your business. You are able to repay the facility on time, and you are able to learn the ups and downs of your business on a 6-month to 12-month basis. Because sometimes you may take a facility for 36 months for a business, but maybe within the first 12 months, it makes a bit of the money. But the second and third year, for one reason or the other, becomes high, maybe because of government taxes, maybe because fluctuations in the market, maybe because also for you as a business owner, things have shifted from how you are doing things before to now, based on so many other factors. So as a rule of thumb, I always advise is if you're running a business, take loans of quarterly, yearly, and yearly at most, so that one, you're able to recoup the money, and number two, you're able to understand your business in and out for yourself, and number three, so that you don't feel overburdened by the facility. And even if something goes wrong, you're still able to go back to your financier or your financial institution and talk to them and bring the transactions that you've been able to do and tell them that there is this and this that affected my business, and so I'm not able to pay the facility repayment amount in the higher side, but I would like, for example, what most financial institutions do, loan restructure, whereby I'm able to pay small amounts for a certain period of time until at least I'm able to pay. And as a rule of thumb, as an SME business or a micro SME business, when you start to see your loans or your business itself start to really struggle to bring itself up, and you're seeing as if you're not going to meet the monthly expectations, one, communicate. Two, as much as it's up to you, try and deposit something at the end of the month. At the end of the month and every day. So, for example, if your business was making 10,000 Kenya shillings, or let's say even 20,000 Kenya shillings in a day, and now it's gone from 20 to 15 to maybe 10. Maybe that time you would be able to deposit 10,000 on a day-to-day basis, but maybe your installment at that time was just 40,000. What you can do, if you're not able to get the 40,000, then deposit that 3,000 or that 2,000 every time you open your business. Why? Such that one, your loans are being paid, they're not getting late, and even if they do get late, it's between the safe zone, which many people who work in financial institutions call the safe zone of 1 to 30 days, whereby within that 1 to 30 days from day one, if you put 2,000, by the time you're reaching day 20 and your facility is maybe 40,000, then you're able to clear and still have some 10 days before the next installment, right? Or if it becomes a bit too hard for you, then it will be good if you're able to speak and renegotiate the terms of the facility to be able to move forward. Then ensure good debts build assets. We don't want to be in a place whereby our debts are depleting, or we find that we are financing terrible activities. And under terrible activities, I call it sport betting, because in my personal opinion, betting is the same as somebody who's gambling in the casino and they are losing money to the house. And the house in this state is a sport betting company. The person playing thinks that they will recoup the money. It happens rarely. Maybe the first few times it will, but after that they will just be, and by then you will have already been addicted to the service. So try as much as possible to avoid gambling and sport betting activities, and also just loans for consuming. It's very okay to dress the same way Monday to Friday. As long as the clothes are clean and neat, then there shouldn't be a problem why you wear the same shoes you wore from Monday, you wear them Friday, or you wear the same suits or the same type of work attire or the same type of business attire from Monday to Friday, because at the end of the day, you are not here to impress people. It should be something that you plan. For example, you want an outfit change, then you can plan months in advance and check. So for my budget, where can I be able to get good quality clothes? How much am I willing to splurge on my clothes, on my shoes? And can I get a place where it's a bit subsidized so that I do not end up spending more than what I desired to? And same goes with your home. Maybe your home isn't looking, for example, aesthetically, way, for example, if you're the kind of person who loves, watching shows where people have designed their homes, you can start little by little and say, okay, so I've gone to my local area. These are the furnitures they are selling. Maybe a seat goes for 15,000. Two seats maybe will go for 30 or 40,000. So how can I be able to gradually save for this? If it's a dining set maybe average goes between still 35 to 40,000. It's an average set. Or if you want to splurge more, even one for 50,000 and still be able to work. And then you start to say, how much money can I be able to put aside? 5,000. Maybe it's lighting in your house. You want it to be a little bit with pizzazz and beauty, or you want to update your curtains. Then you'll have to make a plan for it as it goes. And there's nothing wrong about planning to take care of your place as long as they don't become things you take loans for. Because many of those things that we desire are usually medium to long term. And if you're disciplined enough, you can be able to put money aside and buy or find other ways of creating income. Number two, you can build assets. For example, if you know somebody in the Airbnb business or you're in the Airbnb business, it's also a good area. You just have to watch out, making sure, the area is accommodative of that business. Maybe you bring in your seats, you bring in a table, you bring in a bit of a furnished space, and then you can be able to slowly but surely grow from there. And you're also able to fulfill a need for making extra cash somewhere else. And not just Airbnb businesses, but so many other businesses. For example, if you want to be selling carpets, you can find out where people get carpets, even if it's not quote unquote imported. It could be mtumba, but you're able to sell it for a good price and be able to recoup the money as it goes. So that's how you're able to build assets, including property and including other businesses. Then, of course, manage repayments smoothly. I always say if you're in a cash crunch and you're in a debt crunch also, then it's also good to use other methods. Number one, there is the snowball method of repaying your loans. For example, if you have loans maybe amounting to 50,000, but what you're able to bring in net wise is around, let's say, 45,000. Then you can say, out of these 50,000, how am I going to be able to pay? So for example, if you have Mshwari for 15,000, you have KCB M-Pesa for 20,000, that's already 35,000. You have another one for Tala for around 10,000. And what have you? You can be able to say, okay, this one for 15,000, out of what I've paid my bills, maybe what I am able to pay for my loans is only 10,000. So you can decide, okay, this 10,000, how am I going to distribute? So you can distribute maybe 3,000 for Mshwari, KCB M-Pesa, and maybe for Tala and any other facilities, such that in the next few months, you're able to realize a reduction in your overall loan. And then now go back, even as you do the repayment, and ask yourself, why is it that I find myself taking these loans? And many times it's usually there is either an emotional void or there's something happening in your life, and you're trying to self-soothe by using up as much money as possible. Once you're able to find the root cause of why you spend the money, then you can be able to see, okay, so if I'm feeling like this, or I'm in a not so good emotional state, and maybe I feel like things are not working, so how can I redirect that energy? Maybe you can go out and volunteer, you can go out and learn a new skill, you can go out and find ways of making money, or maybe if you're the kind of person who sees and spends, then it's always good to first go window shopping. And it's the times when you're a little bit low on cash is the best time to go and window shop, because you can see, okay, this is this amount, how can I be able to save it little by little? Obviously, diversify your income, which I've spoken about. Find ways of making money, find ways of building skill, find ways of investing in different areas. There's money market funds, there's stocks, even stocks from foreign companies, even running errands for people and making money out of it. So there are so many ways in which we can be able to make money back. Then also try and maintain your good credit and a good credit score, especially on credit reference bureaus, because a good credit score goes beyond just getting a loan facility. It also comes nowadays in some areas, your tenant will ask for your ID, and as part of the contract agreement, you will have to allow them to see your CRB so that they can be able to gauge how good you are in repayment of your loans in reference to what it is they are renting out to you. Also, this goes into things like even jobs, and not just jobs in financial institutions where everybody would think that's where CRB is really needed, but also in other institutions, even in non-governmental institutions, just to be able to see and gauge a bit of the character of the person you are, because even the good book says and recommends that you must pay your debts. Don't be the person who runs away or shies away from speaking, and if it becomes too much, then shut down the noise and sit down and find a game plan of how you're going to be able to clear your debts. And lastly, as I conclude, I'd like to ask you to write it on the comments what good debt has done for you, and what type of good debt would you recommend to anyone who is starting out, and any strategies to be able to grow from bad debt to good debt, and even as they climb out of debt, and even as they build wealth, not only for their generation, but for generations to come. So thank you again for watching this video. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let's see each other in the next video.